In this video, we're going to be looking at algebraic fractions. Now, this is a higher level topic for GCSE, but I would definitely say make sure you do know all your fraction rules before you do this video. As crazy as it sounds, it will definitely help. And it's probably been a long time since you've looked at it. Okay, so let's look at our first question. In these ones, we're just looking to simplify it. In all the algebraic fraction problems, factorizing is the way to start. If you don't know how to do the question, just go ahead and factorize. You'll probably get some method marks. Okay, so let's look at the top of this fraction, the numerator. X plus 4. Now there's not a lot we can do with that, so we'll just leave that one as it is. However, in the denominator, both terms have got an x in, so we'll just factorize out x. And to get back to x squared, you need to multiply the x by another x. And to get to the 4x, you need to multiply it by 4. And it's a plus 4. So we've factorized it. Now think back to your fractions. Remember, you can cancel down fractions and it doesn't change the fraction. But when you're cancelling down, what are you doing? You're dividing the top and bottom by the same number. You're not adding numbers from the top and bottom, and you're not subtracting numbers from the top and bottom. You're not allowed to do that. Now, just to make it more obvious, I'm going to put x plus 4 in brackets also. But it hasn't really changed anything. Now remember, we're allowed to divide the top and bottom by the same number. Now what's multiplying both at the top and the bottom? Well, it's the x plus 4. X plus 4 is at the top, and x plus 4 is a factor at the bottom as well. So you can just divide through the top and the bottom by x plus 4. So just cancel them off the top and bottom because we divided through, which made it disappear. Now what's happened to the top? If we divided x plus 4 by x plus 4, what has it become? And you should have said 1. X plus 4 divided by x plus 4 is just 1. The same way that 5 divided by 5 would be 1, x plus 4 divided by x plus 4 is also 1. Now the bottom's easier, we just got rid of the x plus 4, leaving us with just x. And that's our fraction simplified. Now let's try the next question. If you're doing this video, you should already know how to factorize double brackets, because we're going to be doing that in this example. So let's do the numerator first. Now of course, both brackets are going to have an x in it because of the x squared. Now we need to look at this 10 to decide what numbers go inside. You're looking at numbers which multiply to make 10. But they need to also sum together to make 7. So 1 times 10 does make 10, but it doesn't sum together to make 11. But 2 times 5 makes that 10, but it also sums together to make 7. So 2 and the 5 is what we're looking for. And we've thrown them in there. So that's the numerator done. Let's do the denominator now. Of course, we're going to have an x and an x because we've got x squared there. Now we're going to look at the 2 again. So of course there's only one way of multiplying two numbers to make 2. It's 1 times 2. And that's perfect because that sums together to make 3. 1 and 2 make 3. So we've factorized top and bottom. Now we can try to cancel it down. And if you notice, there's an x plus 2 multiplying at the top and there's an x plus 2 multiplying at the bottom. So we can divide the top and bottom by x plus 2. Just cancel it off. And now we can rewrite the fraction without the x plus 2 in it. So at the top we've only got x plus 5, and at the bottom we've only got x plus 1. And that's as simple as it's going to get. There's no more things we can do to this one, because remember, we can't just subtract numbers off. Others will subtract x off the top and bottom. But it's not allowed. It's nothing you've ever done when you're doing your fractions. Let's try times in fractions. So again, we're going to factorize it to simplify it first. Now you could multiply the tops and the bottoms together now, but it's going to be very tricky. So let's factorize and see if we can cancel down first. Then we'll do our timesing. And with multiplying fractions, remember you just multiply the numerators together and you multiply the denominators together. It's not that difficult. So have a go at factorizing this top here. And you should have put -3 and +4. Remember, one of them has to be negative because you've got -12 here. So you have to think of two numbers multiplying, which makes -12. And since it's a minus, one of them has to be a minus. Now I'm not going to go into too much detail with the factorizing anymore because you can just go ahead and look at the video on factorizing quadratics. So go ahead and try to factorize the denominator now. And hopefully you got the same thing as me here. So let's do the other fraction. Now there's not much we could do to the top. However, in the bottom, we can simply factorize out x. And you should have got something like this. Now, with times in fractions, you're allowed to cancel down as normal from numerator to denominator. But each fraction, we don't have anything common in the numerator and the denominator. If you look at the first fraction, it was quite close. We did have x minus 3 at the top, but the bottom was x plus 3, so nothing in common. And in the second fraction, the same problem. We've got nothing in common in top and bottom, so we can't cancel down in that way. But if you're good at your fractions, with multiplying and only with multiplying, you're allowed to cancel down diagonally. And if you look at the diagonals, there is something in common. There is something to cancel down. So in the leading diagonal, I've cancelled down x plus 5. And in the other diagonal, we can cancel down x plus 4. So now we've simplified our problem. So let's go ahead and rewrite it without those things in it. Now the question looks much simpler. So let's do the final step of actually multiplying these fractions. So we just multiply the tops and multiply the bottoms. So we're going to do x minus 3 multiplied by 1 and x plus 3 multiplied by x. Of course, x minus 3 multiplied by 1 is simply x minus 3. And x multiplied by x plus 3, well, we're just going to leave it like that. We're not going to open it up because this form is simpler. A factorized form is always simpler. Okay, so now we're going to look at division. Now I'm doing timesing and division first before adding and subtracting because it's the most easiest one there is. Adding and subtracting fractions is actually harder. Okay, so how do we divide? Now some of you might have heard of this. Keep, change, flip. This is the thing to remember with dividing fractions. So you keep the first fraction the same, you change the sign to a times, that is, and you flip the last fraction. Just flip it upside down, the reciprocal of it. Brilliant. Now it's a much easier question, and it's turned into a multiplication. Now to keep the video short, I'm not going to go through the same process of multiplying fractions, but this question is now exactly the same as the one we did. So you should be able to do it. So remember, with division, it simply turns into a multiplication after you do the keep, change and flip. Now we've got the hardest one, adding. Now adding and subtracting work the same, so I'm only going to look at one of them. I'm just going to be looking at adding fractions. Now there's something else which is new in this question. It's got an equal sign. Now the whole thing is equal to 1. Now to start off with, we're not going to bother with that. We're just going to tidy up the fractions by adding them. And in the final steps, we're going to solve it. We're going to deal with that equal sign. So just for now, just ignore the equal sign. Just concentrate on the fractions. Okay, so what do you remember about adding and subtracting fractions? The name of the game is to make the denominators the same. And the easiest way to do that is multiply them by each other. So the x plus 1 you're going to multiply by x plus 4, and the x plus 4 you're going to multiply by the x plus 1. Okay, so let's do that. So the left fraction, we're multiplying the top and bottom by x plus 4. Remember, we have to do it to both top and bottom to keep that fraction the same. And we've done that. And in the other fraction, we're going to multiply the top and bottom by x plus 1. And we've done that also. So we've multiplied them by each other's denominator. And what you can see here is the denominators are the same now. Now, they're in a different order, but that doesn't matter with multiplication. Because multiplication is commutative. It means the order doesn't matter. 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2. Since the denominators are the same now, we can put it all over one denominator. Before we do that, let's just open up the brackets. It's going to make things a little bit easier. So the first bracket opens up as 4x plus 16. And you shouldn't have any problems doing that. And the second one, you do 3 times x and you do 3 times 1, which gives you 3x plus 3. Remember, at all stages, we're keeping it as equals 1. We're not going to bother with that bit of it yet. Okay, so let's do what we said. Put it all over one denominator. We're just going to add the tops now. So you've got 4x plus 3x, which gives you 7x. You've got 16 plus 3, which gives you 19. Brilliant. Okay, so we're running out of space here. So let's take what we've got up to now to another page. Now we're going to use the equal sign. Hopefully you're good at solving equations. So that denominator there, the x plus 4, x plus 1, what's that doing to the 7x plus 19? It's dividing. So how are we going to get rid of it? We're going to multiply both sides by that whole denominator. And you can see we've got rid of it from the left hand side, and timesing the 1 by it of course gives itself, which is x plus 4, x plus 1. Now we're getting somewhere. Some of you might have already expanded the denominator, but I usually leave it until now. So now I'm going to expand the denominator. And you shouldn't have any problems doing this. Just the crisscross method is fine. And you should have got something like this if you had a go. Now look here, it's a quadratic. And remember, when you're solving quadratics, you always move everything to one side and make it equal to 0. So let's do that. We'll move the 7x plus 19 to the other side by minusing 7x and minusing 19 from both sides. So it's gone from the left hand side. Now we need to minus 7x and minus 19 on the right hand side. Okay, so the x squared can stay as it is, but the 5x is going to change because we're minusing 7x. We'll end up getting minus 2x. And we've got plus 4 on the right hand side, but we're minusing 19 now, which makes it minus 15. Brilliant, we've got it all on one side and it's equal to 0. So now we can try to factorize it. If it doesn't factorize, of course, you can use the quadratic formula, but this one factorizes nicely. And I'm hoping you've got good at factorizing by now. So you're looking at the minus 15. You're just thinking of two numbers which multiply to make minus 15. Now remember, it's minus, so one of them has to be negative. So whatever two numbers you think of, make one of them negative. And think of a combination which sums up to make minus 2. And you should have said plus 3 and minus 5. And finally, we can solve it. We can say what the solutions are. If one of the brackets is x plus 3, then one of the solutions is minus 3. And the other bracket is x minus 5, which means the solution is plus 5. Now, if you're unsure about solving quadratics, just go back and look at the video on solving quadratics. Now, subtracting fractions is much the same. You just need to be careful of signs. So whenever you got subtracting fractions, just follow exactly what we did with the adding fractions. And there we have it. I hope you found that video useful. Support us by liking, subscribing, and share this with your friends. And if you still got some more questions on anything, drop a post on our forum at examqa.com where you'll find your questions answered.